there we are. I always wonder, Shaun, how long it's going to take from when I click live to when it actually happens. But welcome to everybody for another quick step to happier customers. We're episode 13, but there's nothing unlucky about this episode whatsoever. So welcome to those of you that are joining us live. And if you're watching this on recording a little bit later when you've got a bit of quiet time, hello to yourselves as well. So you'll see I'll be joined by a guest today, which I'm very excited about. So all you know about potentially about Shaun at the moment, unless you are connected with him, of course, on LinkedIn, is his name, which is Shaun Belding. So over to you, Shaun. I'm not going to speak any further. It's up to you to introduce yourself.
Oh, well, perfect. Hi, Jackie. Thanks so much. I've been really looking forward to this. It's again, it's stupid o'clock in the morning where I am right now, but I'm really I couldn't wait to get up and do this. And this is customer service, customer experience has been my life for a little over 30 years now, and it's something that it's a passion, and so I'm kind of I saying I'm kind of Jackie's counterpart, a half a world away, in a different part of the planet, and it's something that just because of what I do, we write and study, you read all kinds of things about it, and one of the things. So in the top, what I said I'd like to talk about today too is one of the things that we've been doing for 15 years now at the company is every year we collect stories. I love them. Because I could sit and listen to people tell customer service stories all day long. And it's so much fun. But we collect them. We collect them on the internet. We have clients that send it to us, and people from our newsletters and that sort of stuff send them to us. So we usually have 300, 400, 500 of these stories by the end of the year, and then we sit down over a glass of wine and talk about, and we boil them down into the top and bottom 10 stories. So the top 10 best customer service stories and the bottom 10 worst nasty customer service stories. And so anyway, so it's always a fun experience, and great to see this. One of the things that we discovered in, I think it was 2018 or 2018, was all of a sudden the worst stories, they weren't just like bad stories of bad service anymore. We were collecting them, but they were nasty. And there were so many of them. So instead of getting maybe 20, 25 stories shared with us or finding them, we were getting 200 or 250.
Wow.
And they were, and I'm talking about extreme stories. So like in the United States, there's a chain of restaurants called Popeyes that sell chicken, and their chicken apparently is amazing. I've yet to actually go, but their chicken sandwiches are great. People were killing people in line if somebody cut into line. It was lit. I'm not exaggerating. One store, there was a lineup outside the store, and they ran out of chicken, and the people mobbed the store. Now, the chicken has to be amazing. So I have to go find out what it is.
Absolutely. I've yet to find a chicken that's that amazing.
But my point is that the things about the relationship between customers and employees had really changed. There was a turn. There's a nastiness in there that changed. So we actually stopped doing the bad customer service, top 10 bad ones, because the truly bad ones were so horrible, and I just didn't want to post them at all. So that was what got me thinking about what's going on. And there's so many indicators. There's somebody does the what's it called? The customer rage index. And I can't remember what the university is. So they've been tracking it since 1970, since the 1970s, and people who claim to have experienced rage as a customer, and that's just been tracking up. And then when COVID hit, right, it just went off the charts. So anyway, that's kind of that's what I want to talk about, because it is the thing is that customer service has gotten worse. There's all kinds of indicators that talk about that. Although I read something just last week that there's an indicator saying that maybe it's starting to get better. But
well, we can but hope and keep our fingers
well,
crossed.
I'm hoping with a little bit of it in. Um, but part of the research is why? Like, why is this happening? Like, why? It's one thing to say, okay, customer service is getting worse and moan and whinge about it, but the other one is like, well, how come, right? And so that's kind of the research that I've been focusing on and having some fun with.
And of course, how we've got to know each other, over the last couple of years or so, I post it quite regularly, and obviously your group, LinkedIn group, in terms of the customer service and CX champions group, which you own. And I think it was, how many months ago now, Shaun? It's good. Time's going by so quickly. You very kindly asked me to, obviously, if I'd help out to become one of the managers of the group, and
I think
that's,
we're coming up to a year.
wow. Is it? Time does fly when you're having fun. So, when I approached you and said, look, I'd love you to have you as a guest on my LinkedIn Live customer service series, and we obviously got in touch with you recently, and I said, okay, so have you got a topic in mind? And you instantly came back and said, yeah, you've been pondering. What was the topic that you said you've been pondering over the last month or so?
The uncomfortable truth behind poor customer service.
And because most of my lives so far, we've been talking about obviously the importance of great service, etc. So actually looking at it from the other side in terms of what drives poor customer service, I think is something that hopefully for our audience that are with us, we do have at least one person with us, and that's my husband, who's in the living room listening to us, Peter. So he said hi to both of us, but I just want to pause for a moment just to say, if you have just joined us, the only way we know on a LinkedIn Live whether you're with us live is if you actually say a quick hello in the comments. But of course, we also do, welcome any questions as well. So I think it's a good starting place then, Shaun. Let me tap into what was been going on in your mind over the last month or so that prompted you to be pondering this topic.
Well, again, it was just as it's growing and as people, and I keep being asked about this, is why is it? Why are things getting worse in customer service? And with companies that we're working with are saying, like, we don't even know where to start because they're struggling so much to kind of get service levels up to where they want to get them, and so you get little bits and pieces. Every different customer you work with, you get a little bit and piece and a little bit of insight here, a little bit of insight there, and then it all starts to cascade after a while. It all starts to fall into pieces. I'm starting to see these puzzle pieces fall in. So that's kind of that's what prompted it, is all the puzzle pieces and are starting to fit starting in my brain, starting to fall into place, and it's just, I think it's a fascinating topic because it doesn't just talk to customer service, it talks to us and our world and our environment and our history, all those kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you with your business, work with companies on a global scale. We talked, a little bit before we joined the session today. And I said most of my work at the moment is UK based, although I have had the great pleasure of training people, in America, other countries as well. But from my perspective, what I, focus on, because it affects most of the companies and clients I work with, is where the UK customer satisfaction is. And I'd be interested to know, how that relates to obviously what your experiences have been and the stories that you've seen. But in the UK customer satisfaction index, and there's one that is published in January and one that's been published quite recently in July by the UK Customer Service Institute. And sadly, the customer satisfaction index, the score, has dropped again, and it's the lowest it's been since 2010. Wow. So we're talking about 14 years. And for me, that's why I'm still passionate about doing what I'm doing, because customer service affects all of us, all of the time, every single day of our lives. but there's still lots of work clearly to be done. So, how does that relate in terms of what I've said in the UK? It's been the lowest that it's been since 2010. How does that relate to obviously where you're based in Canada and companies that you work with?
But I think that tracks pretty much with what I've seen in some of the global indexes and that sort of thing. And 2010 too, when you think that was on the heels of the last sort of recession that we had, where companies pulled back on everything. And of course, customer service is often the very first thing people cut. It's like, well, let's get rid of humans, because that's the answer for it. And sorry, I have to tell you, when I first started this business in the early, I was going to say early 1900s. No, I'm not that old. The early 1990s. In the early 1990s, and my business partner and I used to joke about. So back then, Sears, the mammoth company Sears, which is one of the dominant retailers on the planet, they posted their first quarterly loss like ever, and their response in Canada was to cut like 3,000 jobs. And it's like, well, wait a minute. And we used to joke. We said, well, maybe let's just fire everybody. We'll just turn the cash registers around and let them do their own work. Not knowing that when you get to the 2020s, that's exactly what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, I think, Jackie, but I think there's a lot of drivers behind what's going on and why it's getting worse now.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about classically, as I say, companies often, when things get tough, cut resources in terms of people. From my experience as well, my background, before I set up my business 8 years ago, I worked in a variety of different sectors, but in contact center environments as a trainer for 25, 26 years before I set up my business. And so my experience has been, not only do they cut people, but they cut training as well. So training suddenly, the training budget is suddenly non-existent, and people are not getting the training and the support, which then has an impact as well on customer service. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about training shortly. We've got Luke with us as well. Hi, Luke. Luke is one of my loyal followers and loves to join us on these sessions. So a very good morning to you, Luke. And of course, if anybody else has joined us, as I say, do say hello, but also if you've got any questions as well, we welcome those. So let's talk about loyalty then, shall we, Shaun? Where is customer loyalty right now? Is it greater? Is it less? And what's your sort of thoughts behind what might be driving that?
Well, customer loyalty has dwindled and decreased rapidly, and it has been over the last 15 years. And people are organizations, when you hear people talk about it, they blame the customers. Well, the customers are less loyal, they're more flighty, they're more so on and so forth, and it's all because of online things. And honestly, those are cop-outs. I believe that those are absolutely cop-outs, because the reason that they're less loyal is that, well, companies are less loyal to the customers. I'm astounded at customers are less loyal. Organizations have been less loyal to their employees and less loyal to their customers, and yet they wonder why they're not getting loyalty from either one. And just a quick note. So yesterday, I had an experience. I was talking with somebody as a customer service experience, and I had called up, and this lovely woman had answered the phone, and I said, look, I said, I've been having this challenge forever, and I keep asking you, I keep calling and trying to get it fixed. And she said, well, that shouldn't happen. She said, don't go away, let me get this fixed. And then she disappeared for 2 or 3 minutes, came back, and she said, Mr. Belding, she said, okay, this is really horrible. This is embarrassing that you even had to bring this to us. So here's what we've done. And she went bang, 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 bang. And she said, you know what, honestly, and it's a call center, but they all had direct lines to every independent agent. It was two-way. She said, you call me. I don't want this to ever happen to you again. And so all of a sudden I went from just thinking about leaving this organization and saying, why would I go anyplace else? right? Because and I'm thinking, because that was an act for me of loyalty from them, saying, they want me as a customer there, and so why wouldn't I do that? That's not happening anymore.
I mean, I can't remember the last time, I had a conversation that mirrored what you've just said there.
Yeah.
Because what I was hearing there is just that human to human interaction, that empathy, that understanding, but taking ownership, not
Yeah.
passing it around or blaming anybody, just on a human level, just saying this isn't good enough and I'm going to fix it and put it right. And that, so having that direct number as well, encouraging you to actually get back in touch, with her personally, I think it's something that I think every customer in an ideal world would say, that's what I'm looking for. That's what would really, and again, you mentioned about you were going to take your business elsewhere, but that
Yeah.
lady, that one interaction stopped you from doing so. And again, both you and I will have seen much research which shows that yes, no company wants to have a complaint, but the reality is you're going to receive them, no matter how good your service is. But the majority of people will stay with a company if you take ownership, you show that you understand the issue, and you put it right, you fix it
Yeah.
without effort.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yeah.
I guess what I was hearing there, Shaun, is it was effortless for you eventually.
Yeah, it's true, and I blame. I mean, so I sort of throw the blame on the companies, but in all fairness, though, I mean, there's kind of this perfect storm going on right now, that organizations are trying to, they're trying to, not, I was going to say cut corners isn't right. They're trying to streamline their costs, and so now all of a sudden, there's a push to to chatbots. There's a push. They're pushing people to virtual solutions. AI. They're thinking that that's going to be able to take over, and possibly, certainly, to a little bit. But one of the other things is just the people in general. So the processes are changing to remove human beings from the same, but the human beings themselves, there's been a change there too. And so as we are tracking, and I was reading a number of different things to support this, which is, and particularly since COVID, is that the people that are working in customer service right now are less willing or able to put the needs of somebody else before their own. And I'm talking about mindset. I'm talking about a mental state, that about less able to do that. And see if I can. So, customer service is all about empathy. It's all about putting it's all about saying to yourself at this moment, this person in front of me, or the person on the other end of the call. I mean, at this very moment in time, you're the most important person in my life, and believing that, and acting that way. And people aren't doing that. They're not comfortable doing that. And there's very much of a me mindset, a very self-focused mindset that's happening now. And I'm not blaming generations here. I mean, this is across the bandwidth. So that's been happening for a while, but when COVID hit, again, I won't go into the huge dynamic and boring studies but when it hit, a guy named Hans Selye, who was like the grandfather of stress research from way back, a long time ago, identified something called emotional exhaustion. And what emotional exhaustion is, it's basically anytime you have a fear response, you have all these hormones start dripping through into your brain, and it impacts you, and that burns energy. Well, when COVID hit, because every day was it was like, oh my gosh, I have to be careful about this, and the news cycle was all over it, and it was horrible. So what you were seeing were people that were just burned out, even just at home, and people in healthcare, for example, absolutely burned out. But people in retail that were dealing with more and more stressed customers. One of the number one, and when you look up emotional exhaustion, you see one of the number one symptoms of it is a loss of empathy for other people. And customer service specifically is mentioned as that inability to create great customer service, because I am so focused on me right now. I'm so focused on I only have one I only have one brain cell left, and and you're getting on it, one nerve left, you're getting on it kind of mentality. So organically, it made it harder for people to do that. So if you combine that with sort of a second mindset that's happening as companies are becoming less loyal to employees, which is employees are now starting to think of their job as a job, just a job. It's not pride. It's not, there's no, you talked about the ownership. Yeah, well, that's exactly right. This is a job. Whereas, I mean, and there's that phrase work-life balance, as if the two of them, as if one's good and the other one's bad. Well, it doesn't have to be. Like, honestly, back when I had shortly after I had a real job, and then I started a business of toy stores, which I loved. And I still remember the first store, and there's a guy the night janitor, and I met him. And this guy looked like some throwback from the 60s. I've never met a human being that loved his job more than anything. And he would talk for hours about all the effort he'd put to clean a toilet over here, to do something over there, how you clean it. And he was so passionate. I'm thinking, why can't we all feel that way about our jobs? We could.
What do you think drove that passion?
It's just pride. It's just, and the sense that it's not just a job. This is me. This is my career. And I want to do a good job of it.
But also, I guess, understanding the part that person plays in the overall service delivered to customers. And again, there's lots of studies, research, which neither of us are going to bore people with. But again, when you have the right culture, when people understand the values in an organization, but don't just understand them as words, understand them in terms of behaviors, or understand them in terms of how they bring them to life within their specific role, but have an understanding about the impact that they have on their colleagues, but understand the impact ultimately they have on the end service delivered to customers. And I've got no doubt, even though I've never met that gentleman that you talked about, that yes, pride was at the heart of it, but I'm guessing he also understood the importance of his role within the organization as well.
100%. It's true, isn't it? And a lot of times, if you feel like just a small cog in a wheel, like how do you get pride from that? But when you understand the difference that you make, then that's when things start to hum. That's
absolutely. I'm just going to say a quick hello to Robert, who's joined us, Sally as well. Thank you both for joining in. And Robert has said, hearing this, my personal experience, yes, with service, customer service and support, always the first to get cut. Yeah, so going back to what we were talking about earlier about obviously cutting resources, cutting customer service teams, reducing the amount of training, etc. I like to obviously talk about share stories of my own experiences as well. And I posted quite recently that hubby and I enjoyed a lovely nearly 2 weeks, 12 days cruise holiday. And overall, we had some really good experiences, but there were some instances where it wasn't quite so great. And it's often I talk about little things that have a big impact. So little things like our safe not working. When we first went to our room, 4 times we had to request for somebody to come and have a look at our safe. Little things, that's all it was. But again, it was that lack of understanding, lack of urgency. Oh, that's not important, they can wait a little while, we've got other priorities, etc. But 4 attempts to get the safe working. And the other scenario, and this was more important to my husband than me, for gentlemen who like to shave, like to have to use a sink and water in the sink and a plug in the sink that works, but the plug getting stuck. Again, that took a couple of requests to get that sorted. But at the customer service support desk, do you know what the first thing was that the lady said to us to resolve it? Don't use it. So you don't think, oh, well, that's good. That's a good resolution. Don't use it. But again, I wasn't looking for a huge amount of empathy there. It wasn't life or death or anything like that. but it was still having an impact. And all we were looking
Yeah.
for was some level of understanding and somebody to say, yeah, we're going to sort that for you and we're going to resolve it quickly. But where do you think that's in terms of lack of empathy, but also the training side of things? If we're saying that people are, getting to a point where they have that emotional, exhaustion, that they're lacking that empathy, how can we put this right? Let's start with training, because that's something that's the heart of both of us.
Yeah.
What do you think are some of the key skills that companies should be focused on in terms of training people to turn this around and get it to a place where people get that empathy back, they have that pride, they have that understanding of the important part of their role? What needs to change, do you think, in terms of training?
Well, I think, and again, we've both been in this business. We've all seen this for a long time. One of the things that absolutely is true is that what people need now is very different than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I mean, it changes, right? I think back to the very first training programs that we delivered and what we focused on, and very successful. If I focused on that now, they wouldn't at all. And today it's for me, honestly, it's just been the last 7, 8 months that that it dawned on me one of the challenges, not one, some of the challenges. But so again, I'm going to go back to COVID. I always hate to blame COVID for things, but COVID removed human contact. We were already being removed as technology was taking over, but all of a sudden it severed it. And so there's a whole generation that didn't understand human, like that has grown up into the workplace without having to have human contact, and don't, not just in the business world, but in universities, at schools. I mean, we were removed from people, and the rest of us who maybe had in the past, still it got taken away from us for 3 years. So getting to that, so I was astounded at a piece of research, and it was a client that said, well, this is what I want to focus on. I said, really? And said, well, it's not just us that this is happening to. And I looked it up, and it's like, wow, just telephone skill, communication skills. There is, it's a crazy number, and it's over 60% of people are terrified to use the phone. Like, they get anxiety if they have to use the phone. So, if I had to pick up the phone and call you as a customer, or even answer a call, I have anxiety and I'll avoid it. So that's why, things get pushed to voicemail, things get pushed away. And I'm like, really? I can't believe that. So that's number one, is I think that people need fundamental confidence in interactions, because we're so much used to now texts and emails and those types of things. Well, those aren't conversations, right? Those are two monologues. Like when you texting somebody, I get to think about it, blah blah blah. I'll say my piece, right? And then you get to think about it, then you say your piece, right? They're two monologues. A conversation is very different, right? It's dynamic, it's interactive, and people don't have that skill, so they don't have the confidence. So that's one that really struck me, that I would never have considered as being something to focus on for training, and I think it is now. And I think the other part of that is, I think confidence. Anything that gives people confidence, because it's not about, I'm a bad person, I don't want to deal with a customer. I'm just don't know what to do, and I don't have the confidence to do things, because our lives today are so TikTokish. We're observers, and then we put our input in, but we don't actually interact. And that's what customer service is all about. So I think that's the big thing right now, is to get people back to comfort levels with having conversations.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think, we haven't, really talked about AI in this session, but of course, everybody knows that AI, is potentially the direction it's going to go, is particularly for people that deal with customers over the phone, email, etc. That's quite rightly, I guess, because customers want effortless, they want easy access. So if it's a simple question, then having AI technology to answer that question without having to speak to a person, actually I quite like,
Yeah.
because that's simple, it's easy, it's quick, it's effective. I haven't got to wait in a phone queue. But it's therefore going forward going to be going back to that emotional exhaustion you talked about. Just made me think about when I started my career. If I was only dealing with the more difficult, complex conversations, the issues when things go wrong, because AI is dealing with all the simple, basic inquiries, how is that going to affect the future of somebody in customer service, particularly, as I say, in any type of contact center environment where, and I've seen people quoting, oh, employees, customer service teams are going to be happier because a lot of the basic stuff will be taken away from them. Second,
Well,
and my last guest, Marianne, who's, if she's listened to this, was saying exactly the same thing. Happier. I'm going to be dealing with the difficult conversations, having to demonstrate that sincere empathy I talk about a lot. So I guess in terms of the training, that building that confidence in having the conversation, but building that confidence in having the more difficult, complex, challenging conversations, would you say is going to be the way forward in terms of training?
I think so, and understanding how to have fun. I think, I mean, it's not even the difficult conversations, because what really turns people, that's what gets people excited. So yesterday I was at, there's a,
Oh, I think.
oh,
Oh,
did
I think we had some. We had some Wi-Fi issues there.
I, am I back?
You want to start again with that, Shaun?
I should have paid the bill. I knew I should have paid the bill. Yeah. But no. Yesterday I had this experience. I was at a bulk store, so a bulk food store kind of thing, and I was buying dark chocolate covered almonds. That's what I wanted. A woman behind the counter, she said, "Oh, we also have another kind that has their dark chocolate covered almonds with coconut in them." She said, and big smile, and I said, "Oh," I said, "No, I said." I couldn't buy those. I said, my wife hates coconut. I said, if I bought those, she would just leave me. And I said, so I can't do that. And she laughed. She says, oh, well, then maybe that might not be a bad thing sometimes. So we had a great, and I'm like, okay, that was a memorable experience, a little, fragment, and we had some fun together. She enjoyed her job because, and so we had fun. But yeah, you used your example of the ship. So I just wanted to touch on one thing, and that's expectations. So, and the difficult situations and AI and that experience, which is, you went on a cruise. Cruises aren't cheap. And your expectation of a cruise, because of the way they're framed, is that, it's going to be a great experience. I mean, it's, you're going to be looked after and you're going to be pampered and life is going to be good.
Yeah,
So
I think it's the warmest welcome on board, I think is their sort of slogan.
Yeah. So think about it. If you had just gone to the no-tell motel, right? And then of course, if the water didn't work or your safe didn't work, you'd be like, yeah, well, and you wouldn't think twice about it. But that's not where you were. And the same thing with when a customer's upset. If when we've all been there, we all know what it's like to have to deal with something as a customer. When a customer's upset, they're looking for a higher level of experience. They're looking for something that's more, and we have to be able to deliver it. And it's not real. It's not fair to employees to ask them to deal with those situations without giving them the proper tools to do it. And training is like the number one tool. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, based on my experience, it's not just the training, in terms of communication skills for your phone-based teams, but one of the common scenarios I came across in some large organizations that I worked for was people who worked on live chat or people who worked on email having the mindset, well, I only communicate via email. Whereas often now when I go into training with email teams, I say, right, okay, that's a disgruntled customer. That's a customer's not happy. Are you going to play ping pong with email back and forth? Or are you going to pick up the phone and get this resolved, show that sincere empathy, take ownership and get it resolved quickly? And you can see sometimes the fear, pick up the phone.
Oh.
So, so for me, it's really important that all your communication channels, teams that work in every area, develop the skills to have a conversation when it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I'm sure both of us get called in to do just that very same job. But for me, it is very much about people understanding it's the simple things, the basic things that you need to start with, because that's what's important to customers. 56%, I think, of customers recently have said satisfaction for them is influenced very much by being understood and being cared for in their situation and in their needs. That's what people want. They just want to feel that they're speaking to a person, somebody who cares, and
Yeah.
somebody who prides themselves in taking ownership and resolving it as effortlessly as they can. Would you agree?
Yeah. Oh, yes. And I think a lot of organizations misunderstand that. They say, well, I'm calling up to get something fixed easy, effortlessly. As you said, I want somebody that cares. I want somebody that's going to say, wow, that shouldn't have happened. Let me fix this and get that done. I'm not necessarily, don't need to worry about a freebie. You don't have to worry about like all of these other things. Don't ping pong me around. Like try to fix it right away. Don't drag it on. Don't go. I mean, email's the worst. There's many organizations that only communicate by email. Well, that means you have an issue, you send an email, the next day you get a response. By the time you get a response, you have to send an email back. That's not right. And weeks gone by to solve something that in a phone call would be fixed in like 18 seconds. So yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. The skills people need are the skills to be able to simply connect with people on a meaningful level and let people know they care about them. And so some of the just last little bit on that is, again, over the last year that and we discovered some some older research and some newer research that's come together that's identified loyalty and the core of loyalty and actually a measurable core of loyalty, far better than the whole NPS thing, which measures nothing much. But fundamentally, loyalty is created by a belief that of caring. Three things: caring, competency, and integrity. So, if I believe you care about me, if you're really, really good at what you do, and integrity means that you're gonna be taking actions in my best interests, not just in yours, right? Those three things, I'll be loyal to you. And I remember when I read that and I started looking at it, it's like, wow, that sums it all up. And that's where customer service comes in, right? If you in a conversation can let somebody know that they're important to you, that you care about them, that you're good at what you do, and you have the skill sets, and that you're going to make a call. You're not going to try to pull something over on them, that you're going to make a decision or a call or a suggestion that's in their best interest. You're going to create a loyal customer.
Yeah, absolutely, which is then built on trust, isn't it? If I stay loyal to a company, it's because I trust them to do the right thing. I can trust them to do what's right for the customer, not what's necessarily right or more cost effective for the organization. And if you can't do something right now, I get it, but manage my expectations, be
Yes.
honest with time scales. And please, 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 if any companies are listening to me right now and I'm a customer of yours, do not tell me it'll get done as soon as possible. What does that mean? I just want to, before we sort of finish up, Shaun, because I could carry on chatting to you for a long time. But I just noticed, Sally, I tend to say, oh, this person is enjoying his or her job. This person is not happy with his or her job or having a bad day. We can really see that by the way the person interacts with the customers. I absolutely agree, Sally. If I go into a restaurant, if I go into a store to do some clothes shopping on a Saturday, for example, I can immediately pick out the people that are enjoying what they do, or the people that are in there just because they want to get some money to go out on a Saturday night.
Yeah. And if I could add to that, one thing, and I challenge you all to do this because it's a really fun experience. You go into that store and you see a whole bunch of people that are really happy. Ask to talk to the manager. Guess what the manager's like? Really happy, right? Go into the store and you see miserable, horrible, torn down, nasty, people. ask to talk to the manager. Guess what the manager's like? Same way, folks. If you're a manager out there, if you manage not a store, if you manage any part of a business, your team's a direct reflection of you. I've never seen a manager who's upbeat and happy and cheerful, and a whole bunch of employees that are like miserable. I've never seen that, and I've never seen the opposite. So there you go. There's the gauntlet thrown down for anybody who's in a leadership position.
I couldn't agree with you more, Shaun. I usually ask my guests before we sort of finish off, is there one key thing that anybody listening to this that's working in an organization, they may be a manager, they may be somebody in a customer service role, regardless of their role, what would be one key takeaway that you would encourage them to do? I'm putting you on the spot now.
Oh, you're asking me. Oh, I thought you were asking everybody else that was listening.
No. I'm asking you for a takeaway. One little action, one little step that you think a company can do to try and obviously put this right and get away from that uncomfortable truth of what drives bad customer service.
Honestly, I think you sit down with your employees and you say, folks, what do you need? What keeps you awake at night? What are the things you dread coming into work? Right? And we all have like little things that we dread, and find out what they are, and then fix it. Right? Take that away, because that effortlessness that we want with our customers also has to exist with our employees. So, and a big part of it's training. So this one client I told you that had opened my eyes to that whole communication thing and the fear of the phone fear, phonophobia. There's a name for it. That's one of the things that they had done, and they were shocked to find out that 6 or 7 out of 10 people said that was the number one thing that prevented them from picking up the phone or answering a call or even returning a call.
Yeah, and that has most definitely been my experience as well, Shaun. For those of you that have joined us live, thank you ever so much. I hope you've enjoyed the chat between myself and Shaun this morning, and thank you as well for your comments. If you do think of any questions that you'd like to ask either myself or Shaun going forward, then we're both on LinkedIn. Yep. If you're connected to me, you can send me a DM. If you're not connected to Shaun yet, why not? Get that sorted. But thank you ever so much, Shaun. What time is it there with you now? Is it about quarter to 7? Is it in the morning?
It is. It is 6:42 according to my computer. So the day's half over for me.
So it's such a pleasure to speak to you, but I'm so happy that you got up so early this morning to join me on this LinkedIn.
For you, anytime. This is a huge pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Shaun. Whatever you're up to for the rest of the day, have a great one. And for those of you that have joined us live as well, whatever you're up to, I hope you have a fantastic Friday. And if you're watching it on recording, do give us some feedback, because it's always welcome. But thank you, everybody. And thank you to you, Shaun.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.